All I can say is in the last 3 years people have got a chance to assess how we work, and we've worked, I think, very constructively with the Maro Party, with ACT and with United Future, and ACT have been very stable.
Rodney Hyde was rolled by Don Brash, John Boscawen resigned at the weekend, Heather Roy's handed in her resignation, Roger Douglas is off, David Garrett was kicked out of the party last year for stealing the identity of a dead child, Hilary Calvert came in to replace David Garrett and she's leaving too.
ACT have been very stable.
It was the closest we got this year to a political assassination. ACT candidate for Mount Albert John Boscawen attacked from behind with a chocolate lamington.
ACT have been very stable.
The idea that you can fly about the country without regard to what it's costing or its overall expenditure, to me, is wrong.
ACT have been very stable.
Hyde has said sorry and repaid a total of $22,000, which was the cost of taking his girlfriend on taxpayer-funded trips to Hawaii, London, Canada and the US.
ACT have been very stable.
David Garrett had a very public fall from grace. It's just over a year since his political career was left in tatters after an admission he stole the identity of a dead baby to get a passport in the mid-80s.
ACT have been very stable.
The depth of bitterness inside the ACT party has become much clearer today, 24 hours after Heather Roy was dumped as deputy leader. A document she prepared details allegations against her, including a suggestion of drug use.
ACT have been very stable.
This 82-page document effectively airs the party's dirty laundry and details the dysfunctional relationship between Roy and Hyde.
ACT have been very stable.
The Don Brash attempted coup to replace Rodney Hyde as leader of the ACT party appears to be taking a fresh turn today.
ACT have been very stable.
My sources in the Don Brash camp say that the ACT caucus is in complete meltdown.
ACT have been very stable.
It wasn't so much a stab in the back as a stab to the chest, but the effect was the same. Rodney Hyde is no longer ACT's leader.
ACT have been very stable.
Hilary Calvert jumped ship, she jumped sides and went to Don Brash, and today Rodney Hyde went without a fight.
ACT have been very stable.
A split has appeared between ACT leader Don Brash and the man he hopes will bring the party back to Parliament.
ACT have been very stable.
John Banks has rejected a surprise call by Mr Brash to decriminalise cannabis.
The ACT leader says smoking marijuana shouldn't be an offence.
The ACT party stands for the maximum possible personal freedom.
I say no to drugs. I've always said no to drugs.
ACT have been very stable.